Hello, everyone. It is me, the Dragon Critic,
Hey.
aka Lee O'Brien, and today is a bit of an interesting podcast. Today, we are going to be doing a look back on films and TV from the year 2004. And I have two amazing guests with me. Introduce yourself, guys.
Hi.
Hello, my first time being on one of these.
Hey everyone, it's Daragh. Delighted to be here again. Thanks to Lee for having me on.
You're very welcome. There is a possibility we might have two more guests. So it is possible they could be just late or something could have happened. As for people that wanted to join, nothing personal. It's just because it was originally going to be about, say, maybe 4 to 5 people on this podcast. I feel if we had more than that, I feel it would have got a bit overcrowded. So for people that wanted to join, it's nothing personal. It's just I feel if I had more than five of us in here, it would have got overcrowded. So yeah. This was an idea that I thought about just over a month ago, actually. And I said, you know what? Let's do a reflection on 2004 as a whole. We won't be talking about Shrek 2 though, because I have special plans for Shrek in the future. So stay tuned for that. But we are going to start things off with the first topic, which is chosen by Movie Man. So, the first topic is going to be Mean Girls. So, Movie Man, here's the microphone. Give us your thoughts on Mean Girls.
Um, all right. So yeah. Mean Girls. I haven't really like written the script or like really kind of. I have those ideas, but yeah. So, anyways, so on Mean Girls. So this like comedy is sort of 20 years old now. Um and like now this was a film which I I watched I didn't watch this film the first time I watched it was like 3 years ago now in 2021. I remember I watched it one day on Netflix, and yeah, I just remember thinking, all right, that it was a great film. I just remember like really enjoying it the first time I watched it. So I didn't watch it again until 3 years later, which was this year. So I rewatched it back in January, back in like the first month of the year. I rewatched it in preparation for the new film, the musical, which was released in January of this year. Um, so I rewatched it in preparation for the musical, and like, yeah, I have to say, I think it's great. I loved it again on second viewing, like just as much as I did the first time watching it, like if not more. Um, like my second time watching it, I just like remember like really appreciating it a lot more. Because like it's honestly just a really like funny film. Like I think the comedy in it is really well done. And like the humor in the film really works, and like there's like many memorable moments and lines of dialogue in this film. Yeah, honestly, it can just be like really funny. I just remember like laughing my ass off, like especially during like my second viewing. It was just honestly such a funny movie. yeah, the comedy in it is really well done. Um, and like in terms of the characters in it, like the main character, Katie, I think she's honestly a great protagonist. Like, I do really like her arc in the film. I think it is really well done. Um, and like I feel like you can understand her character and to be honest, I think Lindsay Lohan's performance is great in it. Like I think she just does like, oh, Nick has joined.
Hello, Nick. Welcome to the podcast. Just this is Movie Man. This is Daragh. Guys, this is
Such a
Nick.
pleasure.
I
Hello.
just want to,
Hello, Nick.
yeah. I just want to point out, we're just going through Movie Man's thoughts on Mean Girls. And then I'm going to hand the microphone over to Daragh, and then I'll hand the microphone over to you, Nick, and then I'll finish off the Mean Girls choice with my thoughts.
Absolutely.
So, Movie Man, continue with your thoughts, my
Oh
friend.
yeah. So, anyways, as I was saying, yeah, um, Lindsay Lohan's performance in it, I think, is great, and she just really captures the character so well. And like in terms of like some of the other characters, like like talking about the plastics, we of course have the leader Regina George. Yeah, she's a great character as well. She's like such a memorable and really entertaining villain. And she pretty much kind of is like the symbol for like kind of all like those kind of like really kind of sassy, like bad girls. And Rachel McAdams' performance is just fantastic. Like she just plays the character so well. Yeah, she's great in it. Um, Speaking about the other two plastics, Gretchen is a good character as well. I do really enjoy her character, and I think Lacey Shapers does a good performance as well. And then there's Karen, who is like probably my favorite character in the film. Uh, and like
That's
well,
Amanda
along
Seyfried's character, right?
yeah,
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 talk to her.
yeah. She like along with other characters I'll talk about in a bit. Like she like gets a lot of like the laughs in it. A lot of the laughs in the movie come from her character. And yeah, Amanda Seyfried, she does the role so well. And like she does so well in like basically playing kind of the dumb blonde archetype. Um, yeah, she's great in it.
Hmm.
Kind of talking about some of the other characters. I like Janice as well. I think Janice is a good character. And I think she plays a good part in the story. Like I think like you do understand a lot of her character's motivations, and she's quite likable. Lizzie Kaplan does a good performance, and then you have Damien, who is like my other favorite character in the film. Uh, Damien is great. He's so funny. Like he definitely has a lot of the best laughs in the film. Uh, like honestly, he's a great character. I can't think of. Oh, Nick just left. It seems.
I'd say probably something just happened.
Oh, all right. As I was saying, I can't think of his actor's name, but he does a great performance. He like just plays the character like so well. Um, sorry. Anyway, so yeah, I think the characters in it are great. The performances in it are fantastic. Like everyone, I think plays their role so well. Um, and like I think the plot of the film is like it's really intriguing. Because we have this main girl who like moves to a new country, to a new school. And she it's you can understand like she is gonna be like a fish out of water basically, and like as it's kind of easy to see how like quickly she's kind of taking advantage of you see her like start to hang with the mean girls, and yeah, it is an intriguing plot. But I think the way the movie executes it, it's done like so well. Like it is really entertaining how the movie does it. As I said, the humor is great, and there's a lot of great like line delivery. Um, and like as well as the performances, like the way it just tells the story is done so well. It's done in like kind of such like an entertaining way. Um, and like as I said, there's like a lot of like really memorable scenes and lines of dialogue here. I think it's just a really well told and entertaining story. I know, I really enjoy it. Like overall, I think it is a fantastic movie, and like easily like one of the best comedies of the last 20 years, in my opinion. Yeah, overall, a phenomenal film. Uh, yeah, that's kind of my like review there. That's kind of all my thoughts on it summed up there. So
All right. Well, thanks very much for the thoughts. Dara,
no good.
what are your thoughts on Me and Girls, considering we had the pleasure of watching it together?
Yeah, we did a watch of it together,
Yeah,
myself, you, and
yeah.
Ty.
Lee was telling
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I think it's pretty enjoyable when you get to it. Think it takes a couple of viewings to get into it properly, but it is a pretty enjoyable movie. There is some laughs and chuckles that you get out of it, but in my own opinion, I think it suffers from the classic archetypes, so at times it can feel a little bit generic.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Because it seems like with these high school movies, you know how the story's going to play out as soon as you hear high school movie. It generally goes in the same direction, and I think Mean Girls definitely suffers from that.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I suppose the setting kind of, when you're introduced, you kind of know, oh, okay, this is how it's going to play out.
But I like to be optimistic, and I like to say it's a product of its time, because I did notice that the humor is very 2000s based.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too.
Like you'd get away with more back in the 2000s than you would now. I've heard that the humor in the reboot is quite different to what we got in the 2000s.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, like having seen the 2024 movie myself, I can sorry, I can kind of like see that. All right, yeah, it is kind of changed a bit. All right, to be fair.
And the reboot's a musical, isn't it?
It
I
is,
believe
yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking a bit about the reboot. It's not as good as the original, like nowhere near as good in my opinion, but I like it though. It's a pretty good movie in its own right. There's like good performances in it, and the songs in it are actually very good.
Hmm.
Actually, what's funny, Lee, the actress who plays Katie in the reboot, her name's Angourie Rice. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's the
know.
same
She
girl
plays
who
Betty
played
in the
Betty.
Tom Holland
Yeah, and
movies.
the
Yeah,
Very
I
good.
yeah,
think that's cool.
yeah,
That's
Um,
actually, as soon as I saw the trailer, I was thinking, hold on, is that your one who plays Betty Brant?
it is.
yeah. It is.
It is.
Yeah,
She looks older too, actually, which is cool.
And I believe the
yeah,
actress who did the voice of Moana is also in it too.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Lily Cravalho. Yeah, she plays Janice in the reboot.
She's
Hmm.
popping up quite a lot
Actually,
lately, actually.
yeah, actually, did you see the trailer for Moana 2 the other day?
I did indeed, and
Looks
the hype
actually looks
is
pretty
up
good.
there.
Yeah.
Up there.
It does look good. I can't deny it. It looks pretty good. Um, is there any more thoughts that you want to give on Mean Girls, Dara?
I'm trying to think now. There were other things that I thought about it. I just felt the story, it's very predictable. You know exactly
Yeah.
what's going to happen, and I didn't really like the attitudes of the characters. I know it's meant to represent that kind of time where there was always these moany attitudes, and they did do a good job at reflecting that, but just seeing those types of attitudes, it's not something that I'm really into because I wouldn't really have the brain capacity to listen to the moaning.
Yeah, that's totally understandable.
Yeah,
But you know what? There is merit in it. Like there is some good laughs. Some of the jokes they did fall flat, but there are some where they redeem themselves.
Yeah.
But I think it's a fun movie in its
mm,
own right, and it has its fans. I know that. Like I know, Movie Man, you're a big fan, and others. It's actually
yeah,
very popular.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
actually remember one of my teachers in school said that she loved Mean Girls growing up.
Mm,
and it's great that it's growing a big fan base because a lot of stuff from years ago is starting to pop back up again now, and they're starting to develop fan bases around it. Look at Meet the Robinsons, for example. That's another one
Yeah,
that's
true.
grown into a
Very
bit of a
true.
fan base.
But
I haven't
yeah,
seen the reboot yet, but I suddenly have an urge to watch it.
yeah.
hmm,
I'd say it's definitely worth watching. All right, it's not as good as the original, but it's a good film in its own right.
Because I'm curious to see what it's actually like in comparison to the original.
Yeah, like he kind of
yeah,
tells the story in the same way, but like kind of does it in like a different. It's same story, but like it's kind of told in like a musical format. It's interesting, all right, and like plus not to mention it's told in like more recent times, so like there's a lot more like kind of technology and stuff in it. Be
And
on
Tina
its own
Fey
right, it's
directed
pretty
the
good.
reboot, didn't she? And she was in the first one.
Yeah, yeah. She came back all right, and Tim Meadows, who played the principal in the original movie, he's in the reboot as well.
Is Amy
And
Poehler in the
also
reboot? Because I know she was in the first one.
Amy Poehler. No, she's not in the reboot.
Because I thought she was like a producer or something. Because I know her and Tina Fey are very close friends in real life.
Yeah, they actually are. But she wasn't in the reboot. No. Also, Lindsay Lohan does actually have a cameo in it at one point.
I'd say the audience in the States absolutely lost their minds when Lindsay Lohan popped up.
Yeah, I remember. I remember. Like, I was watching in the cinema with my dad, and like, yeah. She came on screen. It was like, okay, look. And I was like, yeah.
hmm.
Spider-Man No Way Home level reactions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm. Um,
Mm,
just to blah. Do you have any more thoughts, Daragh, you want to give, or do you want to just give off your rating for the film?
I'd say I'd give the movie a 5 out of 10. In my opinion, it wouldn't be necessarily something that's for me. I just thought it was very generic, and I feel some of the humor I didn't quite understand because I'm not really in the demographic for it. And I think if you're in the demographic, you'd understand the humor more.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'd agree with that for the most part. Um,
Mm.
is there anything else you want to say, or will I give my thoughts now?
Yeah, you can give your thoughts.
All right, just making sure that you get all that just making sure that you get to say everything that you want to say.
Yeah.
As for me, Mean Girls, before this podcast, Movie Man obviously, picked it. And so me and Dara
Yeah.
talked about saying, let's watch it together. And so we had Tig along with us. Also, just to let you know, Nick just said that he's having a bit of technical difficulties, but he will be coming back. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, just things like that do happen, unfortunately.
Mm.
Technical difficulties on computers, especially, are a big bummer. But
Technology's
as for
fine.
me on Mean Girls, I think it's okay. I actually will admit, I think I don't know. I think for me personally, it's just not really my kind of movie. I don't dislike it or anything, and I respect that you like it. I think the
Yeah.
story, it just kind of like I didn't really care what was going on. I kind of struggled to get into it, or maybe I just need to watch it again. But even when I was watching it, I was just kind of going, "Oh, it's so I don't know. It's just so simple, kind of. It's so like we're going from this characters moan, and there's a little bit of controversy between certain characters, blah 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 blah. I also just think the characters, they're okay. The chemistry is, again, it's okay, but it just nothing about the characters really goes like, oh my god, I relate to this character kind of. And I just I like I said, I think my biggest problem, it just it was I was struggling kind of to get into it, and I think that was my problem personally. Maybe in the future I will watch it again, and perhaps I'll check out the reboot to see what it's like. But I think it's probably just one of those movies that I feel I personally just can't really get into, as it's not really my cup of tea. But I don't think it's bad by any means. I do think it's very well made. I think the actors do a decent job. Some of the music isn't too bad. I think I agree with Dara, what you were saying about how the 2000s vibes are really in it. You really do get the sense that it's made in the 2000s.
There's a
But
sense of nostalgia in a way.
yeah, I agree with that actually. Because the setting, like the high school, and the design of the high school, if that makes sense. Like when you're watching like movies set in high school from like years ago, you kind of go, "Oh my god, that looks like my secondary school."
Yeah, you're always thinking, like, every time I'm just watching a movie in general and they go to a high school, I'm just thinking of being back in secondary school again.
Yeah, same here. It just creates a bit of a laugh. I do think, in fairness, while the comedy, I don't think it's anything hysterical. I do think it's one of those movies that has a charm to it. That does make it fun to watch with friends. But I think for me personally, it's just one of those movies. I just feel it's not really for me personally. But I am still glad I gave it the benefit of the doubt, and who knows, I might watch it again. I might watch the movie again to see if my thoughts do change. But as of right now, I think Mean Girls it's okay. I think it's okay. It can be a little bit corny in areas, but I don't think it's a terrible film. I do think it's well made. I can see the appeal. I can see, like, a lot of the points you made, Movie Man, were really,
Yeah.
really good. And you've actually kind of helped me realize, like, I kind of going, oh, I never thought of it like that. So good job right there, because your points are really good. You explained your thoughts very well.
Thanks. Thank
Very
you.
good points. Very good
Um,
review.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ah,
No, well
thanks.
done.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, very well done.
Well
We
done.
really
Well
do
done.
mean it. But I
Yeah.
think,
You really do mean it.
yeah. No, of course I
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Of course I
Yeah.
do.
Of course
But
we
I
do.
do
Yeah.
think, maybe at some point I will watch the movie again to see if my thoughts do change. But as of right now, My original score was the same as you, Dara, a 5 out of 10. I think I'm going to bump it up to a 6. After hearing more of Movie Man's points, I think that's helped me realize some of the merit a little bit more. But I think my personal problem, I think really, I will be real. I don't have a lot to say about the movie other than I think it's fine. It's just not really my thing. But I think as of right now, I think it's an okay film. Just not really my thing. But like I said, I can see the appeal. I'm delighted there's people like yourself that love it. I just personally, I'm just kind of, yeah, it's okay. So for me, I'm going to give me and I was about to say movie girls. um, me and girls. I'm going to give Me and Girls a 6 out of 10. So not a bad film, definitely well made, has its merit, but just not really my cup of tea from a biased perspective. But from a non-biased perspective, I would say it was just well made. I think that was my overall thoughts on it. So is there anything else you guys would like to say about Mean Girls before we move on to the next topic?
The sum
Yeah,
up
I
for
just
me
want to
is,
say,
if you like the movie, that's completely fine. I'm happy, as you said, Lee. I'm the same here. I'm happy there's people out there like Movie Man that absolutely
mm,
adore it, and I can see why it has a very large fan base now. And just to put a little disclaimer, if you like the movie, that's your opinion, and stay true to your opinions and don't be put off by anybody else. You like what you like, and you should stay that way.
Hmm, that was a
yeah,
very good way of saying that, Daragh. Well done.
yeah, I was trying to say there. Yeah, so I do appreciate both of you giving your thoughts.
You're
Yeah,
very
I mean,
welcome.
I
No
yeah,
problem.
I understand like if the two of you weren't like really huge fans of it, like I understand so it's not really kind of your kind of thing. You kind of seem to have a bit of a different taste, like, and that's completely understandable. But no, I did appreciate hearing both of your thoughts, and Lee, I just want to say I'm quite happy that to hear that um, my kind of little review of it there actually kind of influenced your thoughts on it a bit. So I do
Oh, you're very
appreciate
welcome.
it. I do appreciate from that perspective. Yeah, um, yeah, I do appreciate both of you giving your thoughts, even if you do disagree with me a bit on it. Yeah, both very well done, and I understand if you're not huge into it, but no, I did really appreciate both of you giving your thoughts. So yeah,
You're very
very
welcome.
well done.
So
Yeah,
welcome,
thanks,
man.
thanks a lot.
You're very
Thanks,
welcome.
thanks a lot,
Absolutely more than welcome.
thanks a lot. Yeah, I did
So,
enjoy. I enjoyed that. To be fair,
uh,
And you
I
did
know it
very
was
well at it,
fun.
I have to say.
Oh yeah, definitely. And
yeah,
you
thanks
too,
a
Dara.
lot.
You did a pretty good job explaining your thoughts
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Oh,
So did
thank
you
you.
there.
Thanks
Um,
so much, lads.
yeah. And hey, I'm
No
glad I gave it
problem.
a chance.
I'm glad
Um,
I gave it the benefit of the doubt and dipped my toe in that water.
Yeah, yeah. Good to hear. Good to hear. All right.
okay, so the next topic, which was my chosen topic, unlike you guys, I actually picked the TV show. Uh, so
Yeah.
yeah, no, like I said, it was a choice between either a movie or a TV show. So for me, it was a TV show. I picked Power Rangers Dino Thunder. Yes, for me, childhood classic. I know for you guys don't have a nostalgic attachment. I know you guys are just casual viewers, really, but I do appreciate
Mm,
giving it a chance. Thank you so much. So,
You're
Dino
welcome.
no
Thunder,
problem.
as you all know, is what got me into the franchise when I was young. And what do I actually did watch it again a while ago, because it was the 20th anniversary, and I still stand by my thoughts. I still think Dino Thunder is great. I still think, for me, best Power Rangers ever. I think the storyline is a lot of fun. I think it has its heart in the right place, that being the characters. the relationship between Connor, Kira, Trent, Ethan, and Dr. O is the real heart of it. It really does. You really feel their chemistry. Um, and you really do feel that they're like a genuine team. And I also appreciate how realistic the characters are. That there is a lot of people in real life that are like Connor, Kira, and Ethan and Trent. And I especially I think Dr. O is a great mentor character. I think he's basically the equivalent of Tony Stark from Spider-Man Homecoming, mentoring the younger generation. But yeah, and I think the comic relief, Cassidy and Devon, I think they're pretty good. Haley's great. Elsa, wait, what's Elsa from Frozen doing in this? I'm only kidding.
I don't know.
But I think, yeah, I think Elsa's a good villain. I think Mesogog is a great villain. I think he's the best um, villain in it. Just need to send a message.
Take your time.
I think, yeah, I think the weakest villain. I think this is where my biggest flaw come in is Zeltrax. I think he's fine in the first half. I think it's what they do in the second half where he comes back out of nowhere with no proper explanation. You're just going how and what. It's just stupid. But I actually do think the White Ranger clone, while a little bit unnecessary, I think it worked. And I think it led to a great confrontation with him and Trent. I think that fight scene is fantastic. I think Trent's character arc is excellent. I think it's when the show got very good. And I personally do believe that Daragh in ways kind of looks like Trent. I just think you kind of do a little bit.
Even
Um,
when you were showing me some pictures when you first introduced me to the show, I can kind of see the resemblance.
I think it's the black hair kind of, but nah, but nah. Trent is one of those characters in TV where his arc is beginning, you go, oh wow, this is going quite interesting. Because let's be real, I do think Trent is basically this show's equivalent of Black Suit Spider-Man. Well, that could just be me, but nah, Trent is great. The main three are great. They all have good individual character arcs. Doctor O is great, and rest in peace, Jason David Frank. It's very, very sad that he's no longer with us.
Oh yeah, rest in peace. It was very sad to hear that he dies. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was a big shock to. It was such a big shock though back in 2022.
It was the
Um,
same way I kind of felt about Chadwick Boseman, and I'm sure everybody felt the same way about Chadwick Boseman. It was just a shock to the system.
oh yeah, definitely, definitely. That was a very sad death as well, especially during the time of COVID, which was very sad. Um, but yeah, it was really sad. I think another flaw I think this show does have is okay. I think we'll be real. The effects and most of the CGI are incredibly, incredibly dated, especially CGI.
The the T Rex in episode 1. Yeah.
That's just hilarious. Um, I just think when you see that T Rex, you're just going, "What is this?"
You'd look
Yeah.
at the CGI and you'd just say, we know it looks bad, but it is funny to look at because it's good fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. It's so old though. Like it's 20 years old, but I think I don't think the CGI T-Rex is too bad when you think of it like this. Low budget, early 2000s and strict limited technology. I think when you put it like that, it's not too bad, but when you see it running and all, it's just so funny.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
um, but I think I remember one person said that his favorite aspect of the show was the music. The music is great, but the theme song, oh
Oh,
yes, banger,
That
just
theme song is an
yeah.
absolute banger.
Oh yeah,
it is absolutely.
no, I
If you
think.
don't have the nostalgic factor, I think you'd still like it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I mean, I remember I was talking to someone and I says, "Yo, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this theme song." And says, "Okay, let's have a listen." And then I get a message, "Yo, that theme song is actually stuck in my head. That's actually pretty awesome." Uh, and
Yeah.
I agree. So
100%.
yeah, so overall, despite my childhood nostalgia and my new thoughts now that I'm older, I believe Dino Thunder is great. It's my favorite live action series along with Mrs. Brown's Boys. Um, Big praise, I know, but I do have a lot of praise for it. I do have a lot of nostalgia for it, but I also do have a lot of genuine praise for it. Like my biggest praise is definitely the characters and the relationship between the five Rangers. And come on, let's be real. Like the best moments in this show are when they're all together. Like it's basically the
Yeah.
of Avengers Assemble for them.
Yeah,
Um,
because it's basically a superhero team, and what good is a superhero team if you don't have everyone? It's like having the Avengers, but
Mm.
only having 3 of the original 6.
oh yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And I think the best
Mm.
shots, like you see them all together or when they transform together, they just look so cool. And I think the suits, there's such a nice color on them. I think the Triassic suit, the red and gold that Connor gets, is my favorite. But overall, probably the biggest fan of Power Rangers Dino Thunder in Ireland, or probably the biggest
Yeah.
fan on social media. Or maybe there's some other big Power Rangers fan that's a bigger fan of it than I am. But I think from what we know, maybe I'm probably the biggest. But
Mm.
overall, my rating is a very strong 9 out of 10. So it does have flaws. I won't deny that. It's not perfect, but I do really like it. And I do appreciate you guys for giving it the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to
Yeah.
hand the
Problem.
microphone on to Movie Man. Give us your thoughts on Power Rangers Dino Thunder.
Yeah, so before I get into my thoughts on it, I just want to say, you said that like Dara kind of looks a bit like Trent, and yeah, to be fair, I can kind of see it's alright. Yeah,
Yeah.
um,
You even
yeah, but
right now.
yeah, um, but anyway, so my thoughts on Dino Thunder, yeah, yeah, it was a show that like Lee was telling me to watch for quite some time, and you know I was always thinking I'd get to it, but I was kind of putting it off, and it was kind of taking some time for me to like actually get to watching it, but eventually after some time I did watch the whole thing for myself, and yeah, I have to say I am glad that I did eventually decide to watch it because I did really like it. Like I do think there are some very good shots in it. I
Oh
think
yeah,
like
definitely.
during
100% there are good
some
shots.
of yeah, like the fight scenes and like some of the action scenes. I do think for a TV show, it's done like really well. I do think the cinematography in it is good. Like and I think the music in it is good as well. Like I still remember like a fair bit of the score in it all right. Like it's even kind of going through like my head right now. Like some of the music that they
Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun.
yeah,
We've
like
got
in
it stuck in our
particular,
heads now.
yeah, um, yeah, it's like it's like the music that plays like during the fight sequences, like when you see them like powering up, it is really good. And
Down,
like of
down, down,
course,
down, 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 down. Okay, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Getting your air guitar out already.
yeah, yeah. But of course, the theme song, especially, I know we all said it already, but oh man, the theme song just was an absolute bagger. That's in my head right now. Yeah, a very good theme song, really catchy. Um, yeah, the music in this is actually very good. Um, now, as Lee was saying as well, like some of the effects in it, do look kind of dated, all right. Like of course, yeah, I guess I mentioned the T Rex, in episode one. Like, yeah, it just looks so funny. Um, but yeah, I do think like with what Lee says there about like how like it had like kind of a small budget. It was around like early to mid 2000s. When you look at it from like
It
that
came
kind of
out the year God was
perspective,
born.
yeah, yeah. Um, when you look at it from that perspective, it's not exactly like that bad. I mean, it's pretty bad, but like it's not like absolutely terrible. I have seen worse, to be fair.
Oh no,
So
there's worse CGI. Where just look at the Flash, for example. The Flash had worse CGI.
oh,
Oh
oh,
yeah, Jesus
absolutely,
Christ, yeah,
yeah,
That's probably the
yeah,
worst CGI I've ever seen. The Flash.
yeah. That made this CGI look stunning.
It
yeah,
made it look
uh,
like the Holy Grail.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like the fact like that film is like a big budget blockbuster in 2023 with like a budget of like 250 million. It's just that's shocking. Like that's so shocking.
Like, where did half
Uh,
the money go?
Yeah,
yeah,
marketing.
yeah, it's just appalling.
Just
But
because you're
like
gonna
yeah,
have Michael Keaton Batman in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyways, sorry. So going back to talking about Dino Thunder, anyway. So in terms of like the the characters, the main three characters, Connor, Ethan, and Kira, they're all like very good as characters. I think like in their own right, they're all good characters, and like
Not to
I
mention, one
think
of them
like
was in Trading Christmas.
Oh yes, that's right.
yeah. But anyways, yeah. They have a great dynamic together, and like they I think they work off each other very well, and I think like the three actors they all do like really good. Like in their performances, I think like they do very well. And like Doctor Oliver, he's a good character as well. Yeah, as I said, I do like how he is like a mentor figure to them. Yeah, he's a good character in his own right, and like that one episode of his where it's like I think it's like he's in a coma. That was
Oh,
like his
Fighting
best
Spirit. Yeah,
episode.
that was great.
Yeah, it was his best episode by far. And yeah, I do think Jason David Frank he does a really good performance here, and yeah, may he rest in peace. It's such a
Yeah,
shame that he's no longer with us. It's so sad.
yeah,
Rest in
very
Um,
peace,
sad.
indeed.
yeah. But yeah, he's very good in this, and of course, then there's Trent, who is like my favorite character. Yeah, Trent is like a great character. I do like really love the arc that he goes on in this show, and like with him being the White Ranger, and like him having to decide like which side that he's on. It's honestly like a really good arc. And yeah, it's definitely very compelling. And his actor did a good job as well. Also, the villains in it are good too. But Mesagog, of course, is like the best villain. He's definitely a
100%.
great villain in the show. All right. Yeah, the characters in it are very good. And like the plot of it, I mean, it does have like a fairly simple plot. With
It's
the
basically
three
Spider-Man.
teenagers.
Let's be real.
Yeah,
It's pretty
yeah,
much the Raimi trilogy, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, but it's like I think like the way it tells the plot, it's done like very well. I do think they do a really good job of executing it. And like it's compelling to watch, and it's entertaining as well. Like I mean, there is some very good humor in it too. I do feel like one scene in this show that like really did make me laugh was what were those? Remember those other two characters in it? They were like
Cassidy and
uh,
Devin.
yeah remember that scene where like they push in the tape but it's the wrong tape, and like
Oh yeah, that
yeah
Oh
little
yeah, that's great.
dirtbag. Oh,
that scene like that scene was just so funny. I remember that scene did make me laugh all right. Yeah, but like, it has good humor, it's entertaining, and the action sequences in it are really good and really fun to watch. And like the
Kira's
dynamics
not bad to
between
look at.
yeah,
At least you're being honest.
Well, I
yeah,
mean, hey, I did have a crush on her on a kid I did have a crush on her when I was a kid, so you know.
Fair enough.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Like the dynamic between like the characters and like some of the arcs in it are like just really well done in my opinion. Uh, like it just makes the plot like that much more fun to watch. So yeah, I think it executed its plot like really well. Yeah, it was just like it like what it did with the concept it did like really well with like the character dynamics, the humor, and the action. Really did a great job with it. I feel. So overall, Dial Thunder's really good in my opinion. It's by featuring a very simple concept. It does well with it, and you know, there's good characters. There's some good action sequences, and there's some good humor as well. It's a really good show overall. It's not perfect by any means, but
No.
really good in my opinion. And I do understand why like its fan base and stuff. So I would give Toyo Thunder an 8 out of 10.
All right. Good, fair. Thank you very much for the thoughts, and very well
No
done too.
problem.
So,
Another great
Dara,
review.
what do you think of Power Rangers Dino Thunder?
Well, just before I give my thoughts on it, I'd like to thank you, Lee, for opening my eyes and giving me a chance to watch it with you. I did enjoy watching it, and that was the first time I've ever seen it. I know you were, when we first started talking, you were talking about it with me, and you were filling me in on the lore, so we were playing a little bit of catch up. But I have to say, watching it with you for the first time was amazing.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of the story?
I think the story, it's very corny in areas. I see where you're
Yeah,
coming from when you said that it's very similar to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man trilogy, that the humor is very similar. And linking back to Mean Girls, it has a very 2000s vibe as well. So I guess you could say from a biased perspective, there is a nostalgia factor there as well.
yeah,
It
yeah. I
really
think
does
Yeah,
make
so
actually, Dara, as you were saying there, remember you mentioned how like when you see like a high school in movies, like kind of makes you like think about like with Final Hunter as well, and like come to think of it, kind of does remind me a bit of like in Mean Girls and stuff. Now that you're mentioning it, yeah,
it gives off those similar vibes, that similar style.
Yeah,
does
I
yeah,
suppose,
yeah.
admittedly, the story is it does have a lot of 2000s ideas. Like I remember when I finished it with Tig, because Tig wanted me to watch the finale with him. He said he felt the concept of it was very 2000s.
I think as well, I'm only thinking about this now, but you were mentioning Trent being the Black Ranger. That really reminded me
Black
of
suit symbiote. Sorry to interrupt. The equivalent of black suit Spider-Man is what I said.
basically putting
Yeah, it actually really does sound like very similar to that. All right, yeah, it does.
I really love those kind of arcs as well. I love when a character who is typically good goes to the dark side and then the
Yeah,
power they yield. When you actually see that, it's actually quite frightening.
Yeah, and
yes, I agree.
I think as well though, it's quite creepy when Mesogog says to him, "Join me, join me."
Mm.
Why does that kind of remind me of what Emperor Palpatine was saying to Anakin in the Star Wars prequels?
Not a bad comparison actually.
He really reminds me of Emperor Palpatine, Mesogog.
I suppose, yeah, I can see that.
Just the emotion,
The
the
voice, yeah,
emotion,
yeah.
like the
Um,
join me, join the dark side.
Mm.
the dupe found power has bonded with you.
Mm.
But I hope that you don't join the dark side, Dara. I mean, I know we said you look like Trent, but please don't take note to join the dark side.
Oh, don't worry, I won't be joining the dark side. I may
um,
have the dark hair, but I'm staying on the light side.
good man.
Mm.
And what do you think of the effects, my friend?
I would say the effects, I'll agree with Movie Man when I say they're very dated.
Mm.
But you know what? You can actually look at them, especially the T-Rex when he's running around. You can actually look at them and wet yourself laughing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
definitely. I think
But
those. Go
like I
on.
was saying as well with the Flash, how does a movie with a nearly $300 million budget somehow have worse CGI than a TV show in the 2000s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it's baffling. It really is baffling.
But if you were
Mm.
to give me the choice between watching the CGI in Dino Thunder or watching the CGI in The Flash, I think I'm going to pick Dino Thunder.
Oh yeah, without
Yeah.
a doubt. At
Yeah.
least you can laugh at it too.
At least it's fun to look at. And when you think about it from a logical point of view, we didn't really have that much technology back then. So there was very limited resources. But when you're looking at what we have now, we can do so much more. Like, for instance, we don't need actual suits anymore. It's all nanotech.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. That is very true. And what do you think of the characters, the main three, the villain, Doctor O, and Trent, my friend?
I think the characters are pretty fun to watch. The chemistry between all of them is very compelling. There is heart in the right places. It takes itself seriously when it needs to. I
Hmm.
love Trent's character arc because I think I've told you this before, Lee, that I'm a sucker for character arcs where a person would turn evil and would just go completely ballistic, or the evil twin dynamic.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they do. They actually, now
Mm,
that you mention that, they really did that here. Even the evil twin as well.
yeah.
It's something that's popping up in a lot of movies lately, actually, the whole evil twin thing. It's almost like a twist villain now.
Yeah,
Mm,
and then like all of a sudden it's kind of funny because all of a sudden you think someone's good, then all of a sudden, oh, they have a twin. It's basically a clone or a duplicate. Oh shit, they're evil.
And then there's the
yeah.
whole thing of where you're thinking which one is the real one. You think the evil one is the good one, and then you realize later on that that's actually an evil one. The good one is like captive somewhere or something like that because they're normally
Yeah,
a hostage.
exactly. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I think we can all agree that Trent is he really was the character that made it interesting. I think his storyline really did kick it off for the story.
He had the most untapped potential at the start, but as it was going on, that potential was being utilized in a good way.
Yeah, but I think as well when you meet him, he's kind of like the new nice guy. Kira obviously falls in love with him, and then Trent falls in love with Kira. I think it's good because like you kind of get to see them all bond, and Trent's the real, like he's real complimenting to Kira, like, aw, nice guy. But
Hey,
like,
aren't you a bit jealous, Lee? Don't you be a bit
sorry,
jealous of?
no, I'm not jealous. I'm just saying, it's just he's very nice to her in the beginning, and
Are
then
you
you
sure
see,
you're not jealous now?
I'm very sure,
Are you sure? Are you
Ah,
sure?
very sure,
you're very
very
sure.
sure.
Are you sure?
No, yeah, no, Trent. I mean, it's just before he turns evil, he's real nice to Kira. You know what I mean? Like it's.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, maybe it'd be a bit harsh to call him a simp, but he is real nice to her, especially about her music.
Mm,
Yeah, like I did notice that. It's like, oh, you're so good, you're so pretty, you're so nice, you're so everything.
um,
yeah.
what do you think of Mesagog, Dara?
Mesagog is hilarious, I have to
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
I think he has to be. I don't particularly like very cartoonish villains, but in this instance, I'm going to have to grant an exception.
yeah. I
He's a
think though.
cartoony villain, but he's just funny. Everything he comes out with, and every time he's on screen, you're sitting there and you're in absolute stitches.
Yeah, I think it's just the presence. Like you remember when he finds out about the White Ranger, where he goes, "I've been waiting," and then Elsa's just going, "You have, Master? I feel something. I feel something nearby. The one who stole my gem."
Imagine if you actually did a table read. I think if we all did a table read of one of the scripts, that would be very entertaining.
Maybe we should
Yeah.
do that in a future video when one of us just does a Mesagog impression.
Yeah, that'd
That's a
actually be
very good
great,
impression.
alright.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Mesagog. I remember someone actually said to me once, he did think at times Mesagog was a bit cringy, but he also thought at times he was genuinely quite creepy.
I think the way he walks and the way he moves around can be a little bit creepy because it looks like a puppet.
Oh yeah,
And I'd say it was
Mm,
puppeteer work because the majority of visuals in the 2000s era were done by puppeteering.
yeah. The designs of the monsters and Zeltrax and Mesagog are all aesthetics. They're all people dressed up in costumes.
Like look at Yoda as well in The Empire Strikes Back. He was done through puppeteering, or I don't know if it was probably just somebody in a costume, Frank Oz in a costume, or maybe Frank Oz just did the voice. But I could tell with Yoda, it's the same as Mesagog, that it was puppeteering. It wasn't
Yeah.
computer generated.
Yeah, thank God Mesogog wasn't CGI though. Can you imagine how weird he'd look in CGI?
Yeah.
How do you think he'd look now? Say if Dino Thunder was rebooted in the 2020s era, what do you think he'd look like in CGI?
Oh God. Oh, that's really tricky. I don't think he'd look good in the high budget CG. I think that'd be a bit weird looking. But
I
I
think a
think
lot
if
of
he,
shows nowadays are wasting big money because the budgets for TV shows are actually getting to the equivalent of movies.
yeah, very true. Nah, I wouldn't like
Mm.
to see him in modern CGI. I think he'd look cool in 2D, but not in like computer CGI. See, I think what I like about his design is that it's a costume.
So you'd like if
Mm.
he was hand drawn. That's actually a really good idea
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think
Yeah.
Power Rangers could work in animation. Dino Thunder could work in animation, but you'd
you
have to
really
do
think so?
it in. I think so, but I agree with you when you're saying it should be done in a hand drawn medium, that it shouldn't
Mhm.
be CG like what you'd see from Disney or Pixar.
Yeah, or even DreamWorks, because DreamWorks don't really do much 2D.
I know they did 2D years ago. They did like Prince of Egypt and
Road to
Sinbad,
El Dorado,
Spirit,
yeah, yeah.
or
Yeah.
Spirit, excuse me.
Mm.
Mm.
Mesogog is he does have charm to him. He does have charm. And what do you think of the soundtrack, Mr. Doherty?
The theme song is an absolute classic.
Yeah,
I've listened
100%.
to it a couple of times. Like when we've watched some of the episodes, and every time I listen to it, it's up there in my head rent free.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Mm.
remember someone was saying that. I remember one of the guys that watched it, he was talking to me about it, and he said that while it wouldn't really be my thing, I can't deny the theme song for it is amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I definitely think it's one of the best theme songs to come out of a TV show.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Mm.
No, definitely. And what is your overall thoughts and score for the show, my friend? Or is there anything else you want to say?
I would say my overall thoughts on the show is that the story, while it's a little bit corny, there is plenty of heart in it. There's plenty of levity. You relate to the characters in some way, and they've good chemistry together. I like the music. I did like the theme song. Some of the other music didn't quite land, but for the
Yeah,
most
that's
part, the
fair.
score was pretty well done. I loved the acting. The actors helped push the chemistry, and obviously, rest in peace,
Agreed.
Jason David Frank,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
because I
very
think
sad.
he was one of the big highlights of the show.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, 100%. Because as well, like, don't
Yeah.
forget, he was in the franchise since the original, and
Yeah. He's pretty much.
even
He's kind of like the face of the franchise. Like.
Pretty much, yeah.
yeah, he's
And
basically Tony Stark for this franchise. I feel.
I think
Mm.
it was quite an insult when they didn't have him in the anniversary special.
Oh, the one from last year. Yeah, I don't think he was asked to be in it, but I think they used archive audio for his character, which is a bit crap.
Because I remember we were watching the special, and weren't you saying to me that he wasn't asked
Oh,
to be there in
for
person, but he did like voiceover.
oh, sorry, I was thinking of a different crossover. Oh, you're talking about the SPD one. Sorry.
That's the one.
Basically, what happened was in SPD Wormhole, they didn't want to pay Jason David Frank to fly to New Zealand, but they just got Trent's actor Jeffrey Parazzo to play Doctor O. That's why you don't see him out of the suit.
That's
Oh.
I really don't like when they do that, when the actors are just covered up with suits and you just know. Like, I never really understood years ago when actors are under the suit, but how do they get the voice out? Now I know it's obviously through voice acting.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It
Mm.
was. I don't know. I mean, I didn't think Trent did a bad impression, but I can definitely see where you're coming from. It was quite. It wasn't the right thing to do. I would agree on that.
And then I think the
Mm.
villains are very entertaining. All of them are quite entertaining. And while the CGI is quite dated for the time, it is a product of its time. And I'm actually glad it's being kept that way, that it's not being rebooted, because we're seeing it with so many Hollywood franchises nowadays that they're deciding to stop creating original ideas and then just going back to what works. Like, when they did the Power Rangers reboot movie from 2017, and
Oh, that
Paramount
was
was
awful.
hoping to set up a cinematic universe out of it.
Oh, that was. I may sound biased, but that was terrible. That was awful.
I believe it was a
Yeah,
bomb at the box office, wasn't it?
It
yeah,
was, hence why they cancelled the sequel. Although one of the
yeah.
cool things about it was that Doctor O actually had a cameo in it.
Oh, did he? Because I
Yeah.
haven't seen the 2017 version yet.
No, I suppose it is worth maybe one watch, but at the end of it, him, Jason David Frank, and the original Pink Ranger have a cameo.
Well, I'm definitely going to be giving it a watch, because I'm making my way through lots of franchises at the minute.
Hmm. No, and that's
Mm.
because I remember you were saying you did say to me that you felt this franchise wouldn't really be your thing personally, but you have merit with it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and I think in a way it's very similar to the likes of Transformers. I think what they should do is what they're doing now, which is good. They should put it on ice for a few years and then bring it back in a few years' time and try again.
Yeah, I think I agree with that because I think the main franchise is
Yeah.
now over.
Because I think it's the same with Transformers. Transformers had a few good movies, and then around the time Bumblebee came out, it started to fall off, and it's been going down ever since then. So what I think they should do, like Power Rangers, just leave it alone, let it rest for a little while, and then bring it back in a few years' time.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Before we move on to the next topic, what would be your overall score for it, Daragh?
I think my overall score, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10, or maybe a 7.5.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
No, and
Yeah.
like I said, guys, thank you so much for giving the thoughts. I really do appreciate it. And thank
No
you so much for
problem.
giving it a
No
chance. It
bother.
really does mean a
Yeah.
lot.
It's
And
important
as
to
Yeah.
give things a chance. Optimism is something everybody should have.
yeah, I think it's important to give things the benefit of the doubt. And as for the next topic, I know Dara is very excited about this. And all I can say is, trying to think of an iconic line. They caught you on tape and you still got away with it. Whoa! Today, next topic is 2004's The Incredibles. Dara, give us your thoughts on 2004's The Incredibles.
Now, The Incredibles is absolutely a timeless classic, and I think it's one of those movies that stands the test of time, and it gets better with
Excuse
age.
me.
I remember it as being, as I mentioned there at the top, it was actually one of the first movies I ever remember watching growing up, and I will admit I was a little bit scared of it growing up.
Oh, interesting.
I was a little bit scared of the robots, and I was a little bit scared of the Omnidroids and Syndrome.
That's fair. Yeah, it can. Yeah, I suppose I can see that.
Yeah.
But it's
Understandable.
it's absolutely a fantastic movie, and it links back into what I think about Pixar. They made nothing but bangers ever since Toy Story up to Toy Story 3. Nothing but bangers and nothing but original ideas. It's actually probably one of my favorite movies of all time. I definitely put it in my top 10. And
Mhm.
there's a multitude of reasons why.
Yeah.
I would say the story is very, very interesting. I like to say that it's a deconstruction of the superhero genre, and that it doesn't feel like a copy and paste of the likes of Marvel or the DCEU or Power Rangers or Spider-Man. It just feels like its own thing, because it does
Yeah.
something completely different
Yeah.
by making superheroes illegal, that they're out there in society, and
Oh yeah,
they had their
definitely.
glory days. They were running around, knocking about, doing their own thing, saving lives. And then an incident happens with Mr. Incredible where he tries to save a person, but he ends up suing Mr. Incredible because he didn't want to be saved. And that's what illegalizes superheroes. And what I like about that kind of idea is they're forced to leave their powers behind, hang up the suits, and just try to figure out a way to fit in society as normal people and live their own lives. It's something that's never been done before in the superhero genre. I know
Yeah.
heroes would have their little character arcs and they'd be a little bit arrogant at the start. And that's definitely there with Bob, Mr. Incredible. That he's a little bit arrogant at the start. He's a little bit blinded by his glory days and he wants to get back on the horse again. And then as the movie goes on, he learns that there's a time, of course, you can remember the times that came before and you can relive that nostalgia, but don't let it consume you, that you need to move forward in your life. There's other things to life besides doing what you're doing. And it's a very valuable life lesson for kids and a very, very
Oh yeah,
valuable
definitely.
for people.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think with the story as well, I like that the tone is actually surprisingly quite dark, especially
Yeah.
with Syndrome. As soon as Syndrome is introduced, it goes from being a light-hearted buddy comedy to being this very dark and gritty adventure. Especially when you find out that Syndrome is going around. You learn at the start of the movie that superheroes are mysteriously disappearing and nobody knows what's going on. But you find out later on that Syndrome is actually killing the superheroes because he looked up to Mr. Incredible and he wanted to be like him. He saw him as one of his heroes. But when he was asking to work for him and he was pitching his ideas, he was rejected. And that led him down to a life of crime and he became a mega genius, this inventor, and he basically
I'm
wanted
incredible.
Yeah.
I always love the line where Mr. Incredible is saying to Syndrome and Mr. Incredible are talking back to one another. I'll be a greater hero than you ever were. You mean you killed off real heroes so that you could pretend to be one?
Oh yeah, that scene's great.
Yeah.
And that's practically what it is. He wants to kill off real heroes to flaunt his own image and show himself off
Hmm.
and to fill that void from being rejected. And that's a good character arc for a villain. The minute he's introduced, you think he's going to be this jokey kind of villain because even the way he's introduced, he's like, it's finally ready. You know, I went through so many heroes before getting to fight you, but you know what? I am your biggest fan. And that's the big twist. Literally.
Oh
clips
yeah,
So
yeah.
so
No,
hard.
shocking.
that shit is good.
And even though the design may have been a little bit of a giveaway, it is still a good shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
You find out
execution
there's
of it that
funny-
works.
Yeah.
Syndrome just keeps getting better and better with every single frame that he's on screen. He never becomes overly comedic, but he gets more intimidating as it goes on, especially with his plans. And that climax is absolutely unreal.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And the choreography of it is very
Yeah.
good too.
And then the other family members, you've got Helen, Violet, Dash, Jack, and I guess you could say Frozone to a certain degree. Who,
Yeah.
by the way, Frozone is probably my favorite character in The Incredibles.
Where
he is
is
excellent.
my super suit?
And from a biased perspective, I'd say that's because I'm a big fan of Samuel L. Jackson.
Where
how can you
is
not be
my
like-
super zoo?
Yeah.
Where is my super suit?
Where
put it
is my
away.
super suit?
Oh, that is that's such an iconic line.
Yeah, I remember when Incredibles 2 came out, I saw a video where someone was dressed up as Frozone and they walked into the cinema. Honey, where's my super suit?
Oh yeah, I think I remember seeing that video because I remember when Incredibles 2 came out, I'm going to be biased and say I was very high up on the hype train.
Yeah, oh yeah, sure. I mean, I think a lot of us were, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll get into the sequel in a little while, but I think the other members of the family all have their own individual arcs too, which is cool. You've got Dash who wants to embrace his superpowers, but he's forbidden by family that he has to keep it hidden, and he just wants
Yeah.
to be his own person. So in a way, he's not exactly fighting for his independence, but he wants it, and he wants to prove himself. He's
Hmm.
kind of like Mr. Incredible in a way. He wants to show off.
Like father, like son.
Like father,
Yeah.
like son.
Yeah.
Never thought of it like that, actually. Good point, lads.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got Violet, who she kind of, in ways, agrees with the rules, but you can tell that she's hiding under a shell, and that she, as the movie goes on, she starts to come out of that shell and she starts to embrace her powers. She's almost kind of scared of using her powers because it would be a detriment to the family. Like, I love that scene where Elastigirl is flying the plane and she's telling Violet, she's screaming at her to get her to do a force field around the plane to protect them from Syndrome's missiles. And she can't do it. And you can just tell she's scared.
Yeah, no, I think Violet is actually a very well written character, and I enjoy her relationship with Helen. Helen is Mrs. Incredible's name, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thought
Helen,
so.
yeah.
And I like how she's treated like the older sister. Well, I mean, she is the older sister, but I like how she's treated like the parent of the kids, kind of.
And Dash and
Yeah.
Violet fighting. I know it's sibling
Yeah.
rivalry, and I know it's a worn out trope a little bit, but it is funny, especially when he's running around the kitchen and he's slapping Violet
Oh
in the
yeah, yeah,
force field.
absolutely
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
And they're very similar to the Fantastic Four. I was just thinking, aren't they? Very similar.
Yeah.
The powers, yeah, and the suits in a way, because the Fantastic Four, because the suits are kind of simple, but they each have their own color, unique color on them.
And I just think as
Yeah.
well, the animation for 2004, it still holds up. I know a lot of people
Yeah.
would say movies like Finding Nemo or The Incredibles or Cars have aged a little bit, but I don't really think so. I think both Finding Nemo and The Incredibles hold up today.
Well, you can see when you watch them, you can see their age, but they still look really good.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess you could kind of say that's because of Disney Plus. The quality of Disney Plus is very high.
Yeah, that too, or even Blu-rays.
Yeah, because I know there's constantly re-releases of the Blu-rays.
Yeah, the higher quality.
And
Yeah.
one thing that's very different when you compare the first and the second Incredibles is that in the first one, the animation is a little bit more on the cartoonish side, whereas in the second one, they wasted massive amounts of money just to be able to zoom in on the nanofibers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just same with Toy Story 4, over realism.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about the early 2000s Pixar movies. They had a cartoonish style to them.
Yeah, like Incredibles 1 is very blocky looking, if that's the right word to use.
It kind of looks in some ways a little bit like a higher quality PlayStation game.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. 100%. I completely agree on that.
The character designs look very PlayStation.
Yeah, yeah, the eyes and the faces. Yeah. Yeah, I agree on that.
It's like a mixture between the
Yeah.
Pixar style and PlayStation.
Yeah. And there was a PlayStation 2 game for it, believe it or not.
Yeah, wasn't it like Mr. Incredible and Frozone going up against the Underminer?
I believe so. Actually.
I believe that's what it was, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. I think there was two games for it when the first one came out. There was one based on the film, and there was one about the Underminer.
And then the music as well. I haven't gotten into the music. The music is banging. That theme song
Yeah, the
and
music
credits
rocks.
and the 2D
Oh,
animation
this
that's
one
used
is
during the
great.
credits is absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it was very rare for Pixar to
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
do 2D animation. So stepping into that court was something that was never seen before, because when The Incredibles came out, we were at a stage in the animation industry where 2D and hand drawn was slowly fading away.
Yeah.
But to see it
Mm.
utilized in some of their movies, and The Incredibles is a good example, it helps it flourish in a way.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from. Yeah.
And the villains are
Mm.
all very entertaining. Even the Underminer, I haven't talked about the Underminer. I know he was only in it for not even a minute, probably only about 30 seconds. But John Ratzenberger, he's probably one of my favorite voice actors. And every time
Mm.
I watch a Pixar movie, I'm always on the lookout for his voice. And
Oh,
it's a very good
yes.
performance as
Yeah.
the Underminer.
Yeah. I am the Underminer.
And all the voice acting is stellar as well. I don't know what it is, but Disney and Pixar always have a great knack for picking out top tier voice talent for their animation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, the voice acted in the first Incredibles is excellent. Like everyone really does suit their character.
But now I think I'm
Mm.
gonna my overall score first off would be, I would say, an 8 out of 10. I would say the only problems I'd have with it is some characters don't have enough screen time. I would have liked Frozone to have a little bit more screen time.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think I agree with that actually.
And then Jack Jack. But obviously, you see with Jack Jack at the end, you didn't think he'd have powers, and then he suddenly miraculously gets his powers.
Yeah, oh yeah, that is class.
Yeah.
And that's a good setup for a sequel as well. And we did get a sequel, and it was based on that idea.
Yeah, 14 years later though.
14 years later, and that
Yeah.
was a pain to wait for.
Yeah, Jesus, it took Jesus Christ though, it really was a long wait.
But the elephant
Mm.
in the room, Incredibles 2. I think Incredibles 2 loses most of the charm from the first movie. It goes in a more lighthearted direction, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think
Mhm.
it takes away from the story. I think The Incredibles works better with darker storytelling.
Yeah, no, that is fair.
Yeah.
I can definitely see where you're coming from.
The characters
Yeah.
are more or less the same, but it's more stay at home, and I never liked that stay at home dynamic. I prefer them to be out and fighting like they were in the first movie. Especially Mr.
Yeah,
Red, he's massively sidelined.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I can see. I mean, personally, I actually really like the second one, but I can see where you're coming from and what you mean.
And then Frozone was sidelined as well.
He was in the climax quite a lot, though, if I'm correct.
He was
He
in
was, to
the
be
start of
fair,
the
yeah.
movie, comes in to fight the Underminer. Then he's at the meetings. And I think I believe he comes in at the climax.
Yeah, because I know he's in the ending when the superheroes are made legal.
And I remember he gets hypnotized by the screenslaver. He's one of the superheroes that gets hypnotized.
Mm. Oh, yeah, yeah, that's true.
But the villain of Incredibles 2 is my biggest issue with it.
Go on.
Oh,
Evelyn
yeah.
Dever. Just think about this for a second. Evelyn Dever. What does that sound
I
like?
know. I know.
Evil Endeavor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that on the nose
Thought
or is
of it
that
like
on the
that.
nose?
Yeah. Yeah.
I honestly thought it was going to be Winston.
Yeah, I did too. When I first saw the
Yeah.
movie, I thought
Same
it would have been
here.
Winston.
Because I remember I was saying this to
Yeah.
you. Remember the Lego set leaks?
Yeah, and then a lot of
Yeah.
people made it seem like it was Winston.
I'm fairly
Yeah.
certain it was going to be Winston, and then something leaked out. I'd say because of that Lego set leak, they panicked and changed it.
That is possible.
That's what I'd say happened in my own opinion. I'd say it was going to be Winston, but it leaked out and there was panic.
Hmm.
So they had to quickly scramble and change it.
Yeah, last minute change.
I guarantee you it was a
Yeah.
last minute change because it wasn't a good twist.
Hmm.
But the animation, it does look nice, but it goes way too realistic.
Hmm. Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
I really hope, like, there's murmurs right now of a third movie on the way.
Yeah, well, hopefully they get to complete the Incredibles trilogy.
I don't think
Mm.
it's going to be like Spider-Verse. I don't think it's going to be a consistent trilogy, but there's good potential to. I know a lot of people liked Incredibles 2, but I also know there's sections of the fandom that didn't like Incredibles 2, and I
Yeah,
hope
Incredibles
from
2
my
is a
own
fairly
perspective,
mixed
I
movie
hope
now.
that
Yeah.
Incredibles 2 redeems it.
Yeah, I think there is potential for the third one.
A lot of people have been saying this, but I'd like them to do a time jump to where the kids are a bit
Yeah.
older, and then you have Bob and Helen that are
That'll
obviously
be
a little older
interesting.
too.
Yeah, I agree with that. They should have done that for a certain number 4 that's coming out this year in July, I feel.
Definitely, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like with Despicable Me 4, why didn't they age the girls up?
Yeah, it's so stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, the girls who voice like Margot and Edith are older now, and like they're having to like change Agnes's voice actress. Yeah, they definitely should have aged them up, I feel.
It just, the voice just sounds off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's something that's not right about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
But with
Mm.
Incredibles 3, I definitely think there's potential to make a good trilogy, but on one condition.
Mm.
Stop after number 3. Don't do Toy Story or Cars where you keep making sequels until you bleed it dry. So
Definitely.
I'll just
Mm.
say, don't
Yeah.
mess. So I think Incredibles 3, it's very interesting that it's on the table, and given the strategy that they're going in now, it's fair game to assume they're gonna want to make it to get back on track for money.
Yeah, I think it could come out maybe in 2027. That'd be my guess.
I would say, yeah, probably around 2027, 2028.
Yeah.
And then there was also, I remember seeing this thing on Twitter a few months ago. I don't know if anybody else saw it, but you had a leak that was out with a spin-off series or a movie. I don't know whether it's a series or a movie that's set within the Incredibles universe, but it's going to focus on a child that Frozone is apparently fostering.
Oh yes, I remember you telling me about this. Yeah, I think it could be interesting to see more of Frozone.
I don't know what it's called, but I know it's a parody on another show. Lonnie, I think it's called Lonnie and Clyde. I know there was a show with a similar name, but it's supposed to be a parody of that show.
Hmm.
But they didn't explicitly say whether it's going to be a series or a movie, but my guess would be maybe it was going to be a series, but it got retooled into a movie.
It is possible. It is possible.
But overall, with The Incredibles, it's absolutely a banger franchise. It's probably one of the best animated franchises out there. And if you haven't seen it yet, go and give it a watch. It's well worth your time.
Definitely. I know that I completely agree.
What do you guys think of it? I'm curious about your thoughts.
Movieman, you're up. What do you think of The Incredibles?
Now, I mean, now I'll admit, I haven't watched this in some time. I'm not gonna lie, like, this conversation that we've been having about it, it actually has kind of gotten me a bit like interested to rewatch it. But like, in terms of my thoughts on the film, last time I watched it, yeah, I think it's a pretty great movie, to be honest. But I think the animation in it is good. Now, obviously, as we were saying, with being 20 years old now, it kind of is like starting to show its age a bit, I feel. But I do think for the time that it was released, it is really good. And like as we
Yeah.
were saying, the music in the film, it is great, and I do really love the score. Like right now, it's going through my head like some of the score in it. Yeah, I'd say it probably has like one of the best scores like out of like any Pixar movie. Um, and like, I think the characters in it are actually great. But I think Bob, who's Mr. Incredible, he has a good uh arc in the movie, like with Daragh was saying about like him wanting to become like a super again, wanting to like relive the glory days. Yeah, it actually is a genuinely good arc. Um, like with like, and you were saying like with how it kind of shows like themes of you wanting to like kind of relive nostalgic moments, um, but not letting it overwhelm you. Yeah, that is genuinely a good arc. I never really thought about that before. Yeah, he is a good character, all right. I think Helen is a good character as well. I do think what the movie does with her character is quite interesting. And like yeah, she's quite good as well. I think especially she gets better as like the movie goes on. Um, I think like Violet's a good character too. As you were saying, Dara, about like how she spends like a lot of the film kind of like in a shell, but then she starts to come out more as the film goes on. It's genuinely an interesting character, alright. Dash is a good character too, and I do think he's a very entertaining character, and I do think he gets some of the best laughs in the movie. Syndrome also is like a really good villain. I think he's really well written, and like the twist with him is it's great. Like it's actually genuinely a great twist. Like even if you do slowly kind of start to see it coming, the way it's done, it is done really well.
Yeah.
Um, and he has that good blend of like how, sorry, he's quite good. Um, like he's kind of he's kind of a comedic villain. Like he can be entertaining, but he actually is like genuinely threatening as well. So I do like that with his character. And then of course there's Frozone, who is also a really entertaining character. Where is my super suit?
I put
Um,
it away.
yeah,
Our evening's in danger.
yeah,
The public is in danger.
yeah, um,
Timeless.
yeah.
Absolutely.
The car, yeah, yeah. The characters are good. The voice acting is good as well. As you were saying, Tara, like the concept of the film with with like people who like have superpowers but are like forced into retirement, and then like one super is like given the opportunity to come back and relive the glory days. Yeah, I think like it is a really good concept. As you said, it's something that hasn't really been done before, and like the movie does like a great job with it. Like it's entertaining, but like it can be quite dark too, the way it's done. Um,
Hmm.
and
Definitely.
like yeah, and like the action in it also I think is great, and there's definitely a lot of like really fun action sequences throughout the movie that are very tense. And like, yeah, it's a very tense story. Alright, like the way it kind of builds and builds. Like it's genuinely really engaging, captivating to watch. I think like it does a great job with it. So I think it does like a great job, like executing the concept and making it a genuinely engaging story. So yeah, I do think The Incredibles is a great Pixar movie. And like it's got um good animation, really good music, got great characters, and why like does with its very unique concept and executes it brilliantly. Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched it, as I said, but having this conversation about it, yeah, it's kind of interested me to like actually rewatch it. So yeah, it's definitely a great film indeed. For we move on to Lee there. Can I just say since we're talking about this, do you guys remember? I think it was last year. Those Mr. Incredible becoming uncanny memes.
Oh yes,
Oh yeah,
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 those were
they're
yeah,
terrible.
everywhere.
yeah, yeah. I remember just being obsessed with those back when they were out.
The internet is
Yeah,
genius. I just have to say that for the amount of stuff they can come up with.
Yeah.
yeah,
First, it was all the canon event memes with Miguel O'Hara. Then it was the Mr. Incredible becoming uncanny, and
Oh
no, I think.
god.
now it's the infamous Garfield one that's popping up now.
I know where you live.
Mm, mm,
Oh,
Like just a genius, absolute genius
yeah.
comes up with
mm,
these things.
Oh yeah, no, and just the timing of it too is perfect.
yeah,
Yeah, this
Um,
yeah,
perfect timing indeed.
yeah.
um, just before, do you have anything else you want to say, movie man, or will I give my thoughts?
Um, no, not really. Gen- I have genuinely enjoyed this conversation, and yeah, it has made me interested to rewatch the film. Indeed. So yeah. Anyways. You can take over there now, Lee.
All right. Well, thank you guys for giving thoughts on The Incredibles, and special
No
thanks
problem.
to
No problem.
um and special thanks for choosing it as a topic, Dara. And special thanks
You're
to Movie
welcome.
Man for picking Mean Girls earlier. As for The Incredibles, well, I actually have to say I've always been a big fan of this movie. I think The Incredibles is excellent. I think it's a great film. I think it's one of Pixar's best. Um, I even really like the sequel. I won't give my thoughts on the sequel here because I'm mainly going to talk about the first movie since it's 2004. But I will say I do personally really like the sequel, though I do need to watch it again. As for The Incredibles, I think the story it's great, and you guys really did make really good points about how it deals with
Yeah,
living the old glory days of nostalgia and
yeah.
superheroes
Something I
being
never
legal.
really like thought about before until this conversation.
Yeah, well, I guess this podcast is really, oh my God, I never thought of it like that.
It really
Yeah,
just hits
yeah,
hard when you get older.
Yeah, oh yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And I think as well, it's got good, has a good tone, like Dara was saying. It can take itself, it can get quite dark and it can take itself very seriously. And I agree, it is very unique to other superhero stories and franchises. And I think as well, it can be quite interesting with the family, with Dash, um, how you guys were kind of saying how it's a parallel to Mr. Incredible. Dash wants to
Mm,
use his speed powers, which is, really good, and he does get to use them in the action. But I think the story it is a lot of fun, and it's hilarious. It can be quite serious. It's got good plot twists. It's just overall like the story. it's so much fun. It's so much fun, and it has great energy to it. Great tone to it. It is, in ways, I guess you could say it does feel like 2000s, but it's so well written. It's so well done, and I think the story overall a lot of fun. Just a genuine great time. The animation a little bit dated. It does show its age, but still pretty good. It uses the color gray a lot from what I've noticed. Especially when they're in the
Mm,
city. But still,
yeah.
still good. Like,
A
so I
lot of
think the
orange as
animation.
well, actually, with the lava.
Oh yeah, yeah, true. Actually, yeah, there's a lot of different colors and green as well, which is cool. But I think the story is a lot of fun. The animation, like I was saying, it is really good. A little bit dated, but it is really good. The action scenes are great there. Lots of fun. The character designs are great. They in ways they actually the animation kind of does look like 3D version of the Iron Giant, which is also directed by Brad Bird.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, that's right.
Mm,
yeah, the animation is really good. The characters are great. Mr. Incredible is great. I think he's hilarious at the dinner scene. Good, good. No, Bob, that's bad. What? Jet Dash got sent to the office again. What for?
yeah.
He took an attack on the teacher's chair during class. No one saw it. Whoa, they caught you on tape and you still got away with it? Whoa, how fast have you been cooking? That scene's hysterical. That scene
And
is
then when he
probably,
he nearly
Yeah.
ends up breaking the table.
yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, great. Now I gotta fix the car. Now I gotta pay for the table. Car, what happened to the car? I think it has to be my favorite scene in the entire movie. It's hysterical. But I think Mr. Incredible,
Yeah.
he's so laid back, but he's just so well written as a character. I love his attitude. And I just love his relationship with Helen, which is great, and she's a great character too. And I like how she's quite protective of Bob, but she also wants to support him, but she doesn't like want him to blow cover, which is good. And I quite like the realism of the relationship, especially the scene where he comes back after the fire. I think that's a really good scene. It's actually very realistic,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
do really like
Mm.
her as a character. I think she's very well written. Dash and Violet, great. Dash is really funny. Violet's really interesting. She's very well written. They have such a good dynamic of one another. It is kind of cliche the way they're like bickering all the time, but execution really good. It's really well
Mm.
done, and I like
Mm.
Jack. Jack, he's very funny. Edna Mode is absolutely
All right,
hysterical.
then,
Oh, I
yeah.
forgot Edna Mode.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Very great as well.
And
no
Brad
kid.
Bird did her voice.
Yeah, oh no,
Yeah.
Edna Mode is hysterical. Yes, darling. I
Yeah.
think Edna Mode is gas. She is
No capes.
hilarious.
I remember
Yeah.
whenever they did a gag of that in the Oscars where Brad Bird was, or something. I think he was at, it was some sort of an award show, but he did a gag where they're like, "Can we bring Edna? Would you want to get Edna Mode out here?" And Brad Bird turns around, and he's doing the voice. Then he turns around again. Nobody knew he's actually the voice of Edna Mode, but he turned
Mhm.
around and he had his back turned. He was doing the voice. Then he turns back around again, and everybody starts cheering.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. But I think Edna Mode, she's just such a funny character. It's just so much charm, so much life to the character, and the performance is outstanding. I think
And
um
No capes.
yeah, I feel at times Syndrome can be a little over the top. I don't know. There was for a while I wasn't at one point I wasn't a big fan of Syndrome actually. That might say I know controversial, but I wasn't there was a point where I didn't think he was that good. Then on recent rewatch, I thought he was great. I do feel at times just a little over the top, but I think it actually works for the character. I think he is quite intimidating, and like you said, Dara, it's great how he killed off multiple heroes just so he could be one. That just goes, oh wow, this guy is a big threat. You don't want to mess with this guy. This guy is evil. This guy is powerful.
And he's
The
not
design
using
is
it
great.
either. He's just using technology.
Yeah, the costume as well for Syndrome is great. Um, I really like again. I really like the character of Syndrome. I think he's really good. He's grown on me now, actually, which I'm happy about. I think he's a great villain. Frozone, absolutely great. Samuel L. Jackson's performance.
Mm.
But hey, Speedo, he's great. One of the best characters that Pixar has ever done. I think Samuel L. Jackson, he owns the character. I think Samuel L. Jackson, he's one of those actors, he owns the character, he owns the
Yeah.
role, he is that character.
I think he was the
Mm.
first choice that Brad Bird had when he was casting everyone. They said they wanted since Frozone is literally a cool guy, they wanted a real cool guy to do it. And I think Samuel
Yeah.
L. Jackson was the first person who
Yeah.
was put forward.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, he's
Yeah.
great. He's a great character. And I think as well, every character is given time to shine. They all contribute to the plot, which is great. And the action is great. The drones, they're cool. I think the humor is great. It's really funny, very adult, which is great. And I think the music really good, very very good stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, so overall, I think The Incredibles is a brilliant movie. I think it's fantastic. I think it's awesome. I think it's a ton of fun. It's one of my favorite Pixar movies. It's it's a classic. It really is a classic. And I'm really glad I watched it again. And I do look forward to watching the sequel again. I do personally really like it. But I do have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed watching this one again. I think Incredibles is a classic. It's one of Pixar's absolute best, and definitely a great and very iconic movie. So overall, I'm going to give The Incredibles either a 9 or a 10. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna flip a coin. You know what? I'll give it a 10. It deserves a 10. It's a very good film. I think, and I think it's brilliant. I love The Incredibles. I think it's an excellent film. I think it's brilliant. One of Pixar's best.
We were supposed
Um,
to get a 3D re-release of it as well, back when the time when remember when we had the Toy Story double feature and then Monsters Inc. released the following year in 3D?
oh yeah, I
Mm.
remember that actually.
And then
Yeah,
they had Finding Nemo, and I know they wanted to give The Incredibles and Ratatouille 3D re-releases.
yeah, but they never happened though, did they?
No, I think they just kept kicking it down the road,
Oh,
kept putting it
oh,
off.
Jesus, oh God, that's a pity. Oh
Yeah.
man. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully, The Incredibles and Finding Nemo do get re-releases soon. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
hopefully,
I hope so. I hope so.
yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah. Big thank you to Daragh for choosing The Incredibles. It's a great movie. Great to hear your guys' thoughts on it as well. And
Yeah.
yeah,
You?
I think it's a great film. So the next topic was chosen by Nick. Unfortunately, he's not with us at the moment. But he did. I don't know his thoughts on Mean Girls quite yet. But as for his thoughts on the other topics, he thinks Power Rangers Dino Thunder is enjoyable but quite dated, and he really likes The Incredibles. His topic, now that we get into it, was very iconic. Spider-Man 2.
Mm.
Nick is a big
Yes.
Marvel fan and Spider-Man fan, like
Mm.
ourselves. And he
Yeah.
chose Spider-Man 2. And I know he's not here, but because he did pick Spider-Man 2, I don't want to leave it out. So he might still join again, but yeah. Um, but I still want to talk about Spider-Man 2 because it is a great movie and Nick did choose it. So yeah, hopefully Nick is doing okay. And yeah, so before we get on to Spider-Man 2, who would like to go first?
I think you should go first, Lee, because it seems like you're very passionate about Spider-Man 2.
All right. All right then.
Plus, this is your podcast.
Okay. Movie Man, do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first, Movie Man?
Yeah, yeah, I'll let you go first for this one.
All right. Spider-Man 2 is it's great. Spider-Man 2 I think is even better than the first one. It's weird though, because when I was a child back in the 2000s, I didn't really like Spider-Man 2. I thought it was a bit boring. Then I thought it was when I was 12, it grew on me, but I thought it was the weakest in the trilogy, surprisingly. And then after that words, I've come to the conclusion that I actually now prefer Spider-Man 2 over Spider-Man 1. Now, controversially, I enjoy Spider-Man 3 more. Yeah, now that might be controversial, but I'm a big fan of Spider-Man 3. But as for Spider-Man 2, I think it's excellent. The story with Peter struggling with losing his powers is a great transition from him gaining his powers in the first movie. It creates a very compelling character arc for Peter, the struggle of being a superhero but also losing his powers. I think it creates some very interesting drama. I think at times the pacing can be a little bit slow, but I think Peter's story, it's really good. It's very personal. I feel Spider-Man 2 is the most personal of the Spider-Man movies because it really deals with Peter struggling, and I think that's really good. I also enjoy the relationship. I think Peter's relationship with the other characters is great. I think his relationship with Aunt May shines so much in this one. The scene where Aunt May talks about how, I believe there's a hero in all of us. Absolutely brilliant. Just absolutely phenomenal. I think Rosemary Harris does an excellent performance. I think his relationship with J. Jonah Jameson, he's great. J. Jonah Jameson's a great character. Uh, I do feel Harry Osborn isn't quite as interesting in this one, to be honest. I think he's a bit whiny, I feel. I just feel he's not interesting. I get his reasoning in this film, but I don't know, he just feels kind of out of place to me, I feel. I don't know, I just don't like him as much as I do in the first and third one. To be completely honest, I do love the setup for Spider-Man 3 here. I think that stuff is excellent. Mary Jane, similar to Kira, she's not bad to look at. Um, but no, she is a great. I actually am a big fan of Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane, but I feel in Spider-Man 2, I feel she's at her weakest. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of her in Spider-Man 2. I feel she is quite bitchy. And I feel like she's quite. I get where she's coming from. I get the direction with her character here, but I don't like it. I just don't think it works. I think at times she can be quite bitchy, and some of the choices she makes are just extremely unlikable, and you're just kind of going, "Oh, this is stupid." But again, it's one of those things you can understand where it's coming from. It's just I just don't like how it was handled. But it doesn't hurt the movie, thankfully. It could have been a lot worse. I feel. But Otto Octavius, Doc Ock, brilliant. Played by the brilliant Alfred Molina. Alfred Molina is a phenomenal actor. He does great performances. He's really good in DreamWorks as well because he played two villains in DreamWorks shows. Well, actually, he did play another character, but I just can't remember the name. He played Ki Pa in Kung Fu Panda: Legends of Awesomeness. Vigo Grimborn in How to Train Your Dragon: Race to the Edge, who I actually think is the franchise's best villain. But Alfred Molina is such a talented, gifted actor. Alfred Molina owns this character. Doc Ock in this movie is fantastic. I think he's so well written. He's a great transition from Norman Osborn from the first movie. Um, I think overall, I just enjoy how he's written. The dynamic with Peter is great. Aunt May is wonderful in this one. I think, apart from like Harry Osborn and Mary Jane, they are good here, but they're just. I just don't think they're handled that well, honestly. But I do think, for the most part, the characters are great. I think they all contribute very well to the plot. I think the action is great. At times, the CGI a little bit dated, but not too bad. The music is absolutely phenomenal. Toby Maguire's performance is excellent. I actually think this is his second best performance as Spider-Man. I think his best performance is in No Way Home, personally. But I think Toby Maguire he does great here. I think his scenes where he's just casually playing Peter Parker are fantastic. They have a lot of heart to them, and I think overall this trilogy has a lot of heart to it. It has so much charm to it, and yeah. So I think overall, Spider-Man Two is a brilliant movie. I think it's in terms of how, I'm trying to remember, it's definitely in my top 10. I don't know if it's in my top 5, but it's definitely in my top 10 because I do love Spider-Verse, I do love No Way Home, I do love Far From Home, and I do love Spider-Man 3, but I do love this one as well. I think it's a brilliant film, and overall, I'm going to give Spider-Man 2 a strong 10 out of 10, and I think it's an excellent film. So I'm a big fan of Spider-Man 2, and thank you, Nick, for choosing us for that. Thank you, Nick, for choosing it as the topic. And yeah, so I'm going to hand the microphone on to Daragh. What do you think of Spider-Man 2?
I think Spider-Man 2, this is going to sound controversial, but I think Spider-Man 2 is the weakest of the trilogy.
Go on.
Yeah.
I would say the first one, like, you had Green Goblin, obviously, who's the best Spider-Man villain in the Raimi trilogy. Doc Ock is brilliant too. And then in Spider-Man 3, you've got Sandman and you've got Venom. But I will say with Spider-Man 3, I didn't think Venom was necessary because I know
Yeah.
originally it was supposed to be a Sandman story.
Yeah, like Sony, they forced him to like put Venom in the movie. Yeah,
But going back to Spider-Man 2, I will agree with what you mentioned there, Lee. I think the story, it is similar to the first one in some ways, in that it's quite corny in some areas. I would
Yeah.
say that Harry Osborn and Mary Jane, I was going to say, actually, for a little quip, I honestly think that the two of them were paired together most of the time because they have very similar personalities in the second movie.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
They're both very whiny. They're both very moany.
No wonder there's that scene with them in the third movie where they do the twist.
Like, I didn't really care for them. I don't really care for MJ as a character either. In the first movie, she's okay. In the second one, she's just moany. In the third one, she's moany again, but she comes out of herself a little bit.
Yeah, but she's not bad to look at though.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can understand where Harry Osborn was coming from. Obviously, he lost his dad. Spider-Man killed his dad, but he didn't know Peter
Yeah.
Parker was Spider-Man, but Peter Parker essentially killed his dad. And if you lost like a family member, of course you're going to be petty. But there's a point in the movie where it just gets old.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like it's a bit of back and forth kind of here where you have him constantly complaining to Peter. I think, yeah, I can see what you mean by that.
This is going to be a controversial take as well, but I don't really like Aunt May in the Raimi trilogy. I think Aunt
Oh,
May in the Tasm trilogy is the best Aunt May.
interesting. How come?
I just think with Aunt May in Sam Raimi's trilogy, I think she's a bit laid back. She lets Peter kind of do his own thing. And same with Aunt May in Tom Holland's trilogy. Aunt May in Tom Holland's trilogy is very laid back as well, kind of lets Peter do his own thing. Whereas with Tasm, there's a genuine, not saying there isn't genuine love with all the Aunt Mays, but in the Tasm movies, you can just fully feel it. In that scene in Tasm where he comes in the door, Peter's late, and Aunt May is just worried sick about him. Like, where have you been? And she's trying to, even when Uncle Ben is grilling him, she's going out of her way to defend him.
Yeah.
There's just that love there. I felt that more with Aunt May in the Mark Webb trilogy than I did in Toby or Tom's trilogies.
That's very interesting. Jesus, that is very interesting.
And that was on rewatch of TASM 2 and TASM 1. I started to know.
That is interesting take, to be fair.
But back to Spider-Man 2, story is very corny, but there is heart in it. There's heart with Aunt May, like you were mentioned there, where she says, I believe there's a hero in all of us, and there is, to varying degrees. There is a hero in everyone. You just need to let them out.
Yeah.
Doc Ock is a fantastic villain. Every time he's on screen, he has a continuing menacing presence, and he never loses that touch. And I think he's a lot like Green Goblin. He's made some of the most iconic lines in the trilogy. The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, 100%. And I think his performance is, it is really good. I'm serious. If you keep something, you should never keep something like love stored up so inside.
I don't think the climax of the second movie is as good as the first one, though.
Oh, interesting.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to be a little bit biased. Green Goblin is my favorite villain in the trilogy, and I just think that fight with him, even that rooftop scene with Norman Osborn, is very intimidating. And
Oh, yeah.
I think Godspeed, Spider-Man has to be the best line in the trilogy.
Yeah, I know it is a good one. It is very good.
The climax in Spider-Man 2 is still good, but I think the fight with Green Goblin just has higher stakes.
Yeah, I suppose though it's a bit more personal, kind of, because there's a lot of punching in the first movie's final fight.
And then you obviously have the pumpkin bombs being thrown around. You have the glider.
Yeah, I know that is very, very true.
What else was I thinking there? I was thinking of something about Spider-Man 2. Just the characters are a mixed bag as a whole. Like, Peter is obviously still a good character. He has a compelling arc that he's kind of learning to appreciate what you have until it's gone. Because he wasn't really, in the first movie, he wasn't fully mature. He didn't fully know how to embrace his powers. He was learning, but even when he was fighting Green Goblin and he was swinging around and learning how to use those powers, he didn't fully tap into it, and he didn't fully appreciate it either. But with his powers gone in the second movie, he learned how to appreciate it more.
Yeah, I think that's a good point actually. I never saw it as like that's a very good point when you said you don't know what it's like until it's all gone. I never thought of it like that. I think that's a very good point.
It's just compelling for Toby's Peter, especially. He tends to take things for granted.
Yeah, I think Toby's a bit more. He's kind of more serious, kind of when it comes to Peter Parker.
I would say I know I have a lot of controversial takes on Spider-Man, but I think Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man.
Well, I mean, hey, there's a lot of people that love Andrew Garfield. There is a
Tobey Maguire
lot.
is still great, don't get me wrong, but I think some of the humor with him is a little bit childish at times.
Nah, that's understandable. Well, don't forget, he has a lot of memes.
Yeah, the Bully Maguire.
Yeah.
I was just watching them earlier, dancing memes.
Oh, those are great.
Have you seen the one with where you have Bully Maguire, then you have Miles Morales and Miguel O'Hara joining in?
Oh, so I've seen the one. I remember in school with the teacher that looks like Tobey Maguire. I know I'm not in school anymore, but he is still my hero. I still think he's a great guy. He's a hero. And he actually showed me the Bully Maguire in Mario Kart video.
Oh, I love those ones. Chip Turner.
Yeah, no, those are genius.
Yeah.
Especially the one with Peter and Ned in the car, the Honda.
Oh,
I think.
yeah.
Second place? We had an electric sports car.
Oh, God.
But overall, I would say Spider-Man 2 It's not as good as the first. It's not as good as the third, but it definitely has heart. It definitely has some good humor, but some of the jokes didn't quite land flat. The score is absolutely banging. All the Spider-Man
Oh
movies
yeah.
have great scores.
Oh yeah.
Just they
No,
really
definitely.
give you the sense of who Spider-Man is. And a few people have made good points about music in movies that it has to make you feel like you're in the scene. If you don't have music
Yeah.
Mm,
versus you in the scene, it's not a very good scene.
Yeah.
It's not very good.
mm.
And I think the
Yeah, I think I
Spider-Man
agree.
trilogy definitely, all the Spider-Man movies and all the Marvel movies do that.
Yeah. I think they used their music very effectively.
So I think overall, I would say as well that the characters, mixed bag, didn't really like them in the first movie, but they did improve in number 3.
Hmm.
But overall, I'd say I'm going to give Spider-Man 2 an 8 out of 10. But I'm taking the 2 marks off because of the characters being a little bit of a mixed bag and the fight scenes not being as good as Green Goblin.
Yeah. I know that's totally fair. I think it's kind of like Doc Ock's. He's very, he's a bit more of a thinking villain kind of, whereas Goblin kind of
Mm.
like he's a thinking villain, but he's bit more of a brute, if that makes sense. Like real vicious kind of, real out for vengeance. The Green Goblin.
He's not afraid to get into hand-to-hand combat.
Oh no, like the Goblin is a great
Mm.
villain. He's excellent in No Way Home, I feel.
I don't think you get
Oh
as
yeah,
many
excellent.
interactions with him compared to Doc Ock. Or as
Sorry?
many interactions. I don't think you get as many interactions with Doc Ock and Peter than you do with Peter and Norman.
In Spider-Man in this movie.
Yeah, I think that's another flaw that I had. I think Peter and Otto should have had more interactions, but to be fair to Sony and Marvel, they did kind of redeem that in No Way Home.
Yeah, but I think as well, with number one, Norman was Peter's best friend's father, and obviously with the Goblin, it was kind of back and forth. Whereas here, Peter met Otto, and they became, good friends pretty much. And like then, when Peter saw the experiment go wrong, I can see where you're coming from, but I think it kind of like the direction's a little bit different. But
And
I
then
can
with
definitely
Norman
see where
Osborn,
you're
he
coming
was like a
from.
mentor to Peter in a way. He was kind of like a second Uncle Ben.
Yeah, yeah, I think I agree with that actually, because I think
Mm.
Norman kind of he helped Peter a good bit in the first movie, but also it's hilarious now that you mention it because he was a second Uncle Ben, but he also like he really wanted to kill Spider-Man.
But then again, that was because of the formula.
True, well that is true. That is
Yeah.
very true.
Goblin taking control of him.
Back to formula now.
Mm.
And how strong he gets with that. He just flings your man away so quick.
Yeah,
Mm.
kills him.
But
Yeah.
all the villains were actually much scarier in No Way Home.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Definitely
interesting.
became bigger threats with like all 5 of them. Like,
But my only issue with No Way Home with the villains, I think Venom should have been in it. You would have made up the Sinister Six.
Yeah,
mm,
it really and it seemed like they were
yeah.
going for that.
I know there's deleted concept art floating around that Venom was supposed to help out the 3
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been sick. That would have been peak.
Mm.
It's the only Spider-Man property under Sony in more recent times that's actually good.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
Sure,
Spider-Man
anything.
2 is a very good movie, and it's a good representation that Sony did have some ground and they did have a grip, but through interference, that's faded away over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is very true.
Mm.
Is there anything else you want to say, or will I hand the microphone on to Movie Man?
I'd like to hear Movie Man's thoughts, I think. I'm actually curious.
All right. Movie Man, what do
Um.
you think of Spider-Man 2?
Um. All right. So Yeah, I have a bit to say about it, but before we get on to it, there's actually something I want to say there. So this doesn't really have anything to do with Spider-Man 2, but I just figured that I should probably bring this up because I was meant to tell you this alrightly. But basically, Kirsten Dunst, she was in a film there recently called Civil War. My review of it
Oh
is on
yes.
my
Yes, I
channel.
remember seeing that one.
Yeah, wait, what you think of it, Dar?
I personally didn't really like it. It's just it was a very full on movie, and I don't really like movies that are very full on in your face about things. When I came out of it, I just felt very down after, and I felt sick at the stomach with some of the imagery.
Yeah.
Mm,
I haven't seen it, but
yeah,
I do remember you telling me that.
Like I was
yeah,
actually pale coming out of it. I felt a bit sick.
yeah, but no, I mean, in my opinion, I did really like the film, alright, but yeah, I can understand what you're saying about it, alright, but Dara, may I ask, her character in it, do you remember what she was called?
I can't remember her name off the top of my head. No, I can't
Well,
remember her name.
um, what's the name of our fellow person here in the chat?
Killian? Lee.
No. Yeah,
Lee.
yeah,
What's up with
yeah,
well, what's the crack? Wait, really?
yeah,
Jesus.
yeah, that was her name in the film, yeah,
Wait, that was it was actually Lee.
yeah,
Oh yes, now I remember.
Jesus, that's
yeah,
actually crazy.
That's mental.
yeah. I meant to tell you that rightly, yeah.
Jesus. That's actually
Um,
There you
um,
go.
but yeah. Anyway, so enough about that now. So I was talking about Spider-Man 2. Yeah, I do really I do really like Spider-Man 2. I remember it was my favorite already in the trilogy, but Josh, I feel like I probably have to like re-watch this to kind of decide on that. But yeah, I do really like Spider-Man 2, and like I do think there's some good cinematography in it. Like there are some good shots in the movie, alright. Especially like during some of like the action sequences, there is some genuinely really good cinematography. Um, the music in it as well. Like obviously it's great. I think the music in the whole trilogy is great. All right. Uh, as you said, the effects are a little dated, but they're still quite good. They're not that bad. A bit dated, but the effects are solid. Um, I think the characters, like Peter, is a good character in this film. I do like really like his arc in this film. It's probably his best out of the three movies, and I think Tobey Maguire does a great performance in this one, and I think this is probably his best performance out of the trilogy. Doc Ock is a great villain. Like he's actually a genuinely sympathetic villain. Like you do feel bad for him, alright, with what happens in the movie, and yeah, like not to mention he's genuinely threatening as well. And he's definitely a great threat for Peter. He's a great villain, and Alfred Molina does a genuinely fantastic performance. Um, Aunt May is a good character in the film as well, and like, yeah, I do really like that scene with her and Peter and her giving him that speech. Definitely a great scene, all right. Um, MJ and Harry, I can understand your criticisms, all right. Like they're all right in this film, but I don't really think either of them are the best. I feel like the movie kind of could have done better job with both of them. The plot of the movie is really good. Like I do think, like the plot of this one, it probably is like the best out of the three. I do think it's a great plot and yeah, definitely a great arc for Peter in this film. And of course, there's a lot of great action sequences as well, and there's great intensity to it all. Um, so overall, I really do like Spider-Man 2. As I said, it's probably my favorite in the trilogy, but I'd have to rewatch all of them to decide on that. Yeah, that's kind of all I have to say there. Spider-Man 2 is a really good film, and yeah, it's a very good superhero movie, all right, and definitely one which I would probably rewatch sometime. Yeah, in fact, I've actually, with this along with The Incredibles, I have actually gotten a good bit of interest to rewatch both movies, all right. Yeah, so 2004 definitely had some great superhero movies, all right. Uh, that's what all I have to say there.
And what's your rating?
My rating for it, I have to kind of properly decide, but right now I'm kind of thinking somewhere between like an 8 or a 9. But I do really think it is a really good film, and I have to kind of rewatch all the trilogy to decide if it's my favorite. But for now, I'd say it probably is. Yeah, it's a really good film. All right.
Hmm, fair enough. So that's pretty much it for Spider-Man 2. It is a
Mm.
shame that Nick's not here, but um,
Yeah.
but
Yes, sure.
Mm.
but we were thinking of you, man. We did.
Yeah.
We got to talk about Spider-Man 2, and
Mm.
I will just say that Nick does love the movie. Um, but hopefully he's doing okay. Um,
Hopefully.
so yes. So that's pretty much it for our topics. I want to give a huge special thank you to both Daragh and Movieman and to Nick for choosing Spider-Man 2. Sorry. Yeah, I do. Yeah, sorry, I lost track. I do want to
Mm.
give big thanks to Nick for choosing Spider-Man 2, and yeah, and obviously a big thank you to you guys for choosing The Incredibles and Mean Girls, and thank you so
Mm.
much for giving your thoughts on each of our topics. It was really great to hear. Is there anything else that you guys want to give a brief mention from 2004?
What was your favorite
Just
memories of 2004? I have to ask this, or just the 2000s in general.
Um, you know what? I'm gonna hand the microphone on to Movie Man. What about you?
well, see, the thing is, I wasn't actually born in 2004. I was born in 2006, so can't really comment on that. But one thing I do want to say, I just want to mention, kind of funny how I was talking about Spider-Man 2, and like as you can see, I'm currently wearing like Marvel pajamas at the moment.
Oh
That's kind of
yeah,
funny.
Very nice.
nice. And then I
Yeah,
have Spider-Man poster behind me. I don't know if you can see it. I'll move out of the way. There it
Oh
is.
yes,
oh,
that's a
nice.
really nice
That
poster.
looks good. Yeah, nice.
Love it there in the middle of the wall.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, the 2000s, probably like my favorite memories of like being small were definitely like, times I spent in with family, being in preschool. I actually really enjoyed preschool, not gonna lie. I have some great
Mm.
memories
Hmm.
there. Some of my
Mm.
great memories with a lot of DreamWorks stuff, a lot of films, Spider-Man, a lot of good memories with Power Rangers. Just overall, a lot of good memories from the 2000s I do have. And I do miss the 2000s. It was a good time. It was a great time. Yeah, I thought the
Yeah.
2000s was a great era.
Mm.
I think for me, it was a lot of it was movie memories, and then obviously just being a kid. Times were innocent. You could just do whatever you want, and you were running around and playing. You'd be playing outside. You'd be getting ice cream from the vans during the summer.
Yeah,
You'd be doing all that sort of stuff. You'd be watching lots of shows on the telly.
yeah.
Just
I
an
know.
innocent time.
Yeah, I know. The 2000s was a good decade. A very, very good decade.
And then obviously playing the Wii. I forgot to mention playing the Wii.
Oh yes, the good old Wii. And it's
Playing
also
Mario
funny
Kart.
that we mentioned the PlayStation 2 earlier because I don't know about Mean Girls, but both Dino Thunder, Incredibles, and Spider-Man 2 all had PlayStation 2 video game adaptations.
I don't think Mean Girls has a video game of any sort.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure there actually was a game, all right.
Well, there was.
Um, I think it was like, I think it was like for like the 3DS, but it's missing, like it's lost media, and like I feel like they've been like kind of trying to find it, all right, but as far as I'm aware, it still has yet to be found. So that's kind of interesting. So I'd bring that up.
Now that you say it, you're right. There was a DS game in 2009.
Mm,
that's actually pretty cool.
yeah,
The good old DS, that has some
The
good
good
memories
old
too.
DS.
yeah.
Yeah. So before we close off, is there anything you guys would like to mention or say?
Just thank you for having me on, and it was lovely meeting you, movie man.
Ah, thanks, sir. Very nice to finally meet you as well.
And
Um,
gave out really good points in the reviews. Very good reviews.
Yeah,
thanks, thanks.
yeah, both of you guys did really well.
Mm,
I think we should
yeah,
definitely do more of these.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
I had a great time here. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, thank you both of you guys for joining. Thank you so much for discussing the topics and for choosing your topics. It was a pleasure to watch and discuss them for you guys, and it means a lot. And overall, huge special thank you to both of you guys. Special thanks to Daragh and to Movie Man, and of course, a special thanks to Nick. And we'll definitely do more of these in the future. So yeah,
Mm,
Definitely. I'm up for
so,
that.
yeah.
yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Stay
Mm,
tuned for future videos. And yeah, so overall, big special thank you to both of you guys once again. And
mm,
I'm really happy we did this. I think it was a lot of fun. So yes,
mm.
thank you all so much for watching. Take care, everyone, and skadoosh.
Gadoosh.
Good.